Hi everyone, I'm Dale Smith, aka Journo Dale, and we're here to talk about Canadian politics. A lot of people have been asking me over the last week about the security screening and the vetting process on Parliament Hill in the wake of the incident where the now former Speaker of the House recognized someone who turned out to be a veteran who fought in a Nazi-aligned regiment. How did this happen? Well, the short answer is that the former speaker, Anthony Rota, is a bit of an idiot. And he thought that it would be so cool if he introduced a constituent who was a Ukrainian veteran and didn't really delve anything further into there. But everyone is asking, how did he get through? Was he a security threat? This was the president of Ukraine in the room. How could someone like that have gotten past the screening? And certain bad faith actors, and the leader of the opposition in particular, has tried to assert that somehow the prime minister must be responsible because his office should be vetting all of the people in the chamber, which is also not true and would be a giant overreach and an abrogation of the independence of Parliament. So I thought I would try and break some of this down to try and alleviate some of the confusion that is both natural and being done in a deliberately confusing manner to score political points, so that we can try and have a little better understanding about what happened. So first of all, this was not a security issue. He was a 98-year-old who apparently had a clean police record. There was nothing that would have flagged him in any of the standard searches such as they happen. Now, security on Parliament Hill was a little tighter for this particular occasion, meaning access to the Hill was restricted to certain entry points where people needed to be on a list to get in. And at that point, you go through the standard security screening that happens for any visitor on Parliament Hill who does not already have a pass, and that usually involves airport type screening. And you get a visitor's pass that you need to keep with you. And they, verify that you have ID and so on when you go through this particular process. So it was not an actual security issue. And part of what Pierre Poilievre is trying to assert is that because the Parliamentary Protective Service has a reporting relationship to the RCMP, which reports to the Public Safety Minister, which reports to the Prime Minister. Therefore, the Prime Minister must be responsible. That doesn't actually track or follow because that reporting relationship with the RCMP is only nominal. Really, the Parliamentary Protective Services report to the Speakers of the House of Commons and the Senate because Parliament is independent and as it should be, and this is part of what is at stake here. So that's the security aspect of it. What has not really been understood is the political vetting aspect. And that happens at various stages. Now, for guests that the government, meaning the Prime Minister and Cabinet, want to bring to the chamber, they have their own separate process that goes through agencies like Global Affairs and so on. There is a protocol office, which is nonpartisan, who kind of goes through the lists and so on. For guests that the government is bringing in, PMO will do their own particular vetting process, and vetting is different from security. Vetting is more like, does this person have the potential to cause us embarrassment? And that's a separate process, and it's a political process, and it's one that the government keeps separate from the processes that Parliament goes through. Now, MPs, there's been some kind of a courtesy relationship in terms of who they would like to invite, because there's only so many seats in the galleries. And those all go through the protocol office, which, again, nonpartisan. The protocol office does not vet for political embarrassment because that's not their job. They'll make sure that there's no duplications, that there's a good allocation of seats, and that people are in the right gallery for where they should be, that kind of thing. But it is generally assumed that a guest of an MP is someone who is not, going to cause embarrassment for the MP or for Parliament. It's a bit of a trust situation, but that's generally how it works, because we don't want the government to vet all of the guests of MPs on the Hill, whether it's on a regular day or on a special day, because that would be an overreach, and it would be stepping on the independence of Parliament. Parliament is separate from government, even though government is drawn from it. But Parliament is separate as an institution, and it's self-governing, and that is important because that is how Parliament retains its independence. So in this particular case, the Speaker has his own process because he is the head of the House of Commons. He is elected by all MPs. He does not report to government. He reports to the House of Commons as a whole. And therefore his position as independent is important for the, sanctity of keeping Parliament as a whole independent. And so therefore he's basically allowed to run his own show. This would be the time at which the Speaker should have checked this name when what apparently happened was a constituent of his said, "My father is a 98-year-old Ukrainian. He would like to come and be in the gallery for this." And Anthony Rota said, "That sounds great," made the arrangements through his constituency office for this to happen. And then he decided of his own accord that he would recognize this person in the gallery as part of his speech, because whenever there's a foreign dignitary, the Prime Minister speaks, the dignitary speaks, the Speaker of the Senate speaks, because she is of a higher precedence, and then the Speaker of the House of Commons makes concluding remarks, which is usually like, "Thanks for being here in our august chamber," and makes a few remarks about the guests that they're having, and then that's kind of the end of it. So that's where this should have been caught, is because Rota could have simply invited him to sit there and no one would have been any wiser. But he decided that he needed to recognize this person because he thought it would make him look so cool, as this person was his constituent, and, well, that kind of backfired. But this is where that should have happened. This was not something that the government fell down on, because it's not the government's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the Speaker and the House of Commons. When he was writing the speech, or when the speech writing process was going on, either he or his staff should have flagged that this particular regiment was aligned with the Nazis and not with the Allies. There could have been a misunderstanding. This was some kind of a partisan group who was fighting on their own terms, but that was not the case because nobody bothered to look anything up. But again, this is separate from security, because he was not a security threat. This was a threat of political embarrassment, which is what happened. Again, just being in the gallery should not be cause for there to be particular reason to vet people in this particular way. You're just there to watch, you're not participating, so on. The decision in this case was to recognize this person, which was where the failure happened. He did not tell anyone that he was recognizing this person, because he is not obligated to as the Speaker. He is independent from government. And again, this is entirely because Anthony Rota is a bit of an idiot. He wanted to look impressive and didn't stop to think for 5 seconds about that. So this is kind of what happened. This is the difference between vetting for political embarrassment and security. There is no way that we would have the Parliamentary Protective Service vet people for political embarrassment, because that is not their job, and that would be a wild overreach, because they should not be determining who could or could not cause embarrassment to the government or to Parliament. So again, this could not have been their failure. The government does not stamp on the independence of the Speaker in the House of Commons and insist that they be allowed to vet everyone who the Speaker wishes to invite, because that is a giant overreach. That would be an intrusion on the independence of Parliament and on the independence of the Speaker. And we really, really don't want that. And that's why this whole notion that somehow the Prime Minister is responsible is both laughable, but also a mendacious particular argument that's trying to create a situation that did not exist in order to score to score political points. It's kind of gross, because everyone stood up to clap, which is group psychology. Nobody in the moment thought to think through what he said, because there was a trust that the Speaker should have known that the person he was introducing was not going to reflect badly on Parliament. This was the Speaker's responsibility, and the House Leader kind of made the point, and I think it was fairly salient, that by doing this, the Speaker had basically violated the trust of MPs. So that is kind of what happened there. This is the difference between political vetting and security screening, and I hope everyone understands a little better what happened and why things turned out the way they did this week. And that's everything for this week. Join us again next week for some more Canadian politics. I'm Dale Smith. That's at journo_Dale on Twitter. And don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.